Firstly, it's lovely to be here with everybody. Just reminding ourselves that it is once again Erev Shabbos. Don't know how we managed to get there so quickly, but it's amazing. And I want to take the opportunity to thanking always Aidel for coming and teaching and learning with us and giving us some good thought for getting into our Shabbos. And there were just two names that this morning we omitted, and somebody asked me please to just mention Yael Tzivia Bas Chaya Dalia and Yeruchel Gershon ben Pesa Rechel for a refuah shalema. And just 1 second, because I've got to get all the names correct.
Can I add one in as well, please?
Of course you can, of course.
Can we add in Levi ben Rus, please? I should have texted you before.
Ezra Hashem, only good things, and Chaim Aruchim to Juliet Schneiderman, who had Yotzah today for her father Yisrael ben Yosef Yehuda and for her grandmother Rosa Bas Avraham. Refuahs, Yeshuas for all of Klal Yisrael, and let's go.
Oh gosh, right. Do you know, it never stops to be unnerving somehow, this. I don't know why. And it says on my screen, the host has spotlighted your video. That sounds really, really daunting. I don't know what it means, but it sounds really very scary.
I'll tell you what it does mean, and just for anybody and everybody. So it means that you are now center page and everybody's around you. If anybody
really wants to... I'm going to actually apologize in advance slightly. I was waiting for an international call, and if it comes through, I'm going to have to just pause and at least be polite and take it and tell them to call me back if that's okay. So, you know, if that happens, just talk amongst yourselves, you know, mention the weather. I know when I turned on my computer before, it told me it is raining, which was very nice of it, because presumably otherwise I wouldn't have noticed, even if I am in Manchester, but it told me I'm raining. But here we are for now. So I'm just apologizing in advance if I have to get a little bit distracted for a minute. Okay, this week's Parsha, ladies, oh my gosh, it is so embarrassing. It is the most embarrassing thing. You know, here we are, we're God's people. We've had this revelation and they go and worship a golden calf. Now, here I have to say, it's one of those things you think, oh my goodness, you learn about it when you're a kid, then you learn it about a bit deep when you're older and a deep when you're older, but somehow underneath all of that, there's this toe-curling embarrassment. How could the wisest, most sensible, and we are, you know, we're clever people, right? Even our worst enemies will tell you we are really very, very clever, right? We're very astute. How could these most astute, businesslike, sensible people in the world go and give up Hashem for a golden cow? I mean, a cow? Like, what? And not only is that very embarrassing and weird, but the whole thing comes up. Why would they go and bow to a cow when they just had a revelation of Hashem? Why a cow? Not even a grown-up cow. You know, why a calf? And some of the results that come out of that are, well, this is one of my favorite results, is that the women, as a result of all of this, get a lovely holiday called Rosh Chodesh. So if you're in my house on Rosh Chodesh, especially if it's just before Shabbos, someone's either running around saying, I need one of the boys to turn the washing machine on because I don't do laundry Rosh Chodesh, so someone else has got to do it. Now, you know, nobody does the ironing when I'm not doing the ironing on Rosh Chodesh. They just have to have crumpled shirts. But, you know, like, we have this whole holiday called Rosh Chodesh. Why? Because we didn't go and bow down to a golden calf. We're going to look at the story in a minute. We're going to look for Ezra's Hashem at some of the layers underneath it. I am going to preface this with a bit of a, what do you call it? Customer awareness warning. I can't remember what it's called, a warning. Okay, there's so many very, very, very deep layers of understanding what happened there in the desert, where, you know, 600,000 men plus their, you know, men between 20 and 50 plus their wives and their kids and the older and the younger all seem to have this whole, you know, thing going on. We're only going to be touching on bits, and there's lots of bits which are going to be kind of symbolic, or, you know, maybe a little bit deeper to understand. If this is beyond you, please be assured it's beyond me too. In fact, when I was preparing this yesterday, I sat down, I said to my husband, why did they worship a golden calf? And he said, Kabbalah. And I was like, oh, all right. Well, I guess we're not going to do that. But, you know, we are actually. So, you know, fasten your seatbelts, ladies. Here we go. Let's start with I hate saying the basics. There's nothing basic about Torah, but let's start with the storyline as we know it. Okay, what happened? So I'm going to go back a little bit in history from before Har Sinai. What I'm going to do is, when I'm sort of, especially when I get very carried away. So Sharon, are you there? You're going to wave at me when I get too carried away, right? Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
rank you, but even without that, I tend to say things in the pronunciation that I'm used to. If I say something and you haven't got a clue what I'm on about, then just please wave at me and I will transliterate or translate or whatever it takes. Okay, so here's what we know. Go back a little bit to the Jewish people, Bnei Israel leaving Egypt. Okay, so they've had the 10 plagues and they are ready to go. As they're ready to go, all the Jewish people are running around, they're getting their stuff together. You know what it's like when you're packing for a big trip, right? Okay, especially when you've got a lot of people to pack for, right? So they're packing, they're this, that, the other, getting busy. Where's Moshe Rabbeinu? Where's Moses? Well, he is doing something that was a long old promise because Joseph, remember Joseph, he had died in Egypt and he had asked the Jewish people to remember to take his bones with them when they left Egypt. So what had the Egyptians done? They thought they had a really clever idea. They'd thrown the coffin into the bottom of the Nile thinking, right, you're following this? If the Jewish people can't get the bones of Joseph, they can't go out of Egypt and therefore we'll be able to keep them here. Except it didn't work. Why didn't it work? So Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, goes to the river Nile and he wants to get the bones of Yosef. So he throws a piece of paper into the river. Now, again, definitely beyond me, probably beyond you, unless you're a deep, very serious mystical Kabbalist, then you forgot to tell me, but it's beyond a lot of us, right? It might even be beyond the Holy Rebbe Sandal, unless she's also a deep, secret mystical Kabbalist and forgot to tell us. But he has this piece of paper, and on the piece of paper is written one of the special names of Hashem that we no longer know. And on the back of it is written, and we'll get back to this in a minute, to the words Alei Shor, which means rise up, ox. And the ox is a reference to Joseph, because that was what he was referred to in the blessings. Okay, and he throws this into the river, and nothing happens. Coffin doesn't come up. So the plate was left floating there, and Moshe does what Jewish parents the world over have told their kids when they're going on a trip. He said, if you don't come now, we're going without you. And the coffin comes up. He didn't quite say it like that, but that's the rough idea. And the coffin comes up from the bottom of the river, and they manage to take that coffin and they go off through the mitzvah with it. Behind them, all right, hold this thought, ladies, you're going to come back to it. The children, we're not sure who it is, okay, different opinions, or the children of Bilam, or some of the hangers on. A lot of people who sort of hung on to the Jewish people when they left Mitzrayim, grab the paper. They figure, well, this is, kind of special kind of paper. Obviously, does a lot of powerful things, and they grabbed it. Okay, fast forward 3 months, right? Jewish people are at Har Sinai. They're at Mount Sinai. They have this they're ready for Hashem to reveal the Torah. And in one of my absolute favorite Rashis, when I use a verse later, I'm going to quote from a Chumash because we don't quote off by heart from a Chumash. Okay, we try and do it. In one of my absolute favorite Rashis, they say to Moshe Rabbeinu, we don't want to hear from you. We want to hear from Hashem. We'd like a direct line, as they say, right? It's not. They say it's not hearing from a messenger is not the same thing as hearing, from the king himself. And Moshe said, that's amazing. That's wonderful. Everyone's Hashem's. That's the best there is. And Hashem gives us the first 2 of the 10 commandments. And it's overwhelming. It's overpowering. This spiritual experience is so great that they can't accept it within a physical body. And the Midrash tells us they kind of expire. They die. Their souls kind of get too spiritual for themselves and they die. Well, that's not going to help very much because you need to be alive to do mitzvahs. So Hashem resuscitates us, and the rest of the 10 commandments, the other 8, he gives. Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to the mountain and he gives them directly to Moshe, who's going to bring them back down to us. But we've had that revelation. We've had that incredibly overwhelming, multi-sensory spiritual experience. Okay. And we couldn't stand it. We weren't quite on that level, but we've had it. We've had that extreme revelation of Hashem. Okay. So Moshe Rabbeinu is up on the mountain, and it looks like, and we're not going to go into the maths now, he says he'll be up 40 days and 40 nights, and the people miscount. They don't quite get it right. They start counting too early. So what they think is the 40th day is actually the 39th day, and they get into a bit of a panic. Now, I've asked you to hold lots of thoughts in your heads. Here's another one. Hold the panic bit, okay? They start to panic, and they get really worried. And there's a strong element of the Jewish people who say we need a substitute, right? The pasuk says, the verse says, and I'm going to quote this, right? They say, they say, Kum Elohim, make us a leader, asher yelchu lefanenu, who will go before us, kizeh, Moshe ha'ish, this man Moshe, asher helina me'eretz Mitzrayim, who took us up from Eretz Mitzrayim, lo yadanu ma hayanu, we don't know what's happened to him. Depends who you are, what exactly they wanted. Okay, it's not entirely clear what they wanted, but there's definitely something they want. They feel there's something missing. There is this Aidel element who actually, might actually want proper idol worship, Other people want a leader, a figurehead. They want something. And what does Aharon do? Aharon HaKohen realizes that they really mean it. It's actually getting a little bit violent, right? The Midrash tells us that somebody's killed as well. Hur is killed. So he agrees to help them out. Why does he agree to help them out? Two possibilities. One possibility is he wants to be able to say afterwards, for you, it's not real. Meaning, it's a bit like I would come to your house and I would bring you a fabulously expensive, obviously very valuable Persian carpet as a gift. And just as you're about to put it on display and tell everyone, I say, well, actually, I got it from Costco last week. Okay, now Costco do sell expensive carpets, but you get the rough idea. That's what he wants to do. He wants to try and build whatever it is they want so that afterwards he, Aharon, having built it, can say, look, this is a bit thick. Other possibility, he wants to delay them. You know, when you have those sort of difficult conversations that you don't really want to have? So I don't know about you, I'm a bit of a coward. So I kind of delay them. I figure if I put off the conversation and talk about something else long enough, or remember that something's in the oven, or whatever it is, sooner or later, it will just solve itself and I don't have to deal with the difficult bit, right? So I'm just trying to delay them. He figures if he puts it off long enough, he'll take a nice long time about it and Moshe will come down with no harm done. So he does some delaying tactics, okay? First delaying tactic he does is he tells everyone to bring their jewelry, right? In those days, men had jewelry as well, and to bring their wives' jewelry. And we'll get back to this later, another thing to remember. The women don't give their jewelry. That's a massive delay because they've got to start arguing with their wives to give them the jewelry, and the wives say no. By the way, it's not because the wives were so into their jewelry. We know that's not why it was. The women, the daughters, the sisters it wasn't because they were so into their jewelry, because we find later when they were building the Mishkan, the sort of portable temple, they gave all their jewelry to that. That wasn't a problem. But they weren't going to give their jewelry. They were not going to contribute to this building of some kind of idol figure. They were not going to do that. And we do get rewarded for that. We're going to look later why not. Why did they not feel the need? Why did we, the women, not feel the need to do that? But they didn't. So he has these delaying tactics, okay? The men get their earrings, can't convince the women to join in. The men bring whatever jewelry they have, and he throws it in the fire, hoping it's going to soften. Now, softening a big amount of gold, again, takes time. And this was his plan, except, remember that little piece of paper, the one we talked about, the one that went in the river to get Yosef's bones, but didn't work there? Whoever it was, again, different opinions, throws that into the fire, and out comes this fully made golden calf. We're going to look a bit later about what that means. But there it is. And there's three different groups of people, The women stay right out of the way, nothing to do with it. They can't really object. They're not in a position to stop anything, but they're right out of the way. Then on the other extreme, you get the sort of the hangers-on who had come from Egypt, but weren't, from the Jewish people as such, and they actually worship this calf. Somewhere there's another bunch of people who kind of use it as a big excuse for a kind of a mad bash, bit of a party, right? And then there's all the hangers-on who just don't do anything. They just sit and they watch, but they don't stop anything. And by not stopping anything, they're also implicit in whatever's going wrong. Okay, so there's the people, forget the idolaters, everybody else is waiting to see if this figure is going to be a leader. Some are more or less contribute. They're also getting somehow involved in this camp. Okay, now, even now, we still don't understand what was going on, but let's go a little bit further in the story. Up on Har Sinai, Moshe Rabbeinu is still talking to Hashem. Okay, and Hashem says to Moshe, and making this noise, and Hashem says to Moshe, right? He says to him, Lech, raid, go down, look, go down. This is quite strongly. Ki shiches amcha, your people have ruined things. Okay, your people, right? Not my people. Asher amcha, your people. Asher helisa mi eretz Mitzrayim. These people you brought out from Mitzrayim. And he says they've turned away from the raid. They've built this Aidel. They've prayed to it. And they're giving it a lot of credit. And Hashem says to Moshe, these people, they're finished. They've done this wrong. So leave me alone, says Hashem to Moshe, and I will get angry with them. I will destroy them, and I'm going to start again with you. Okay? And Moshe Rabbeinu says, my people? My people? You took them out of Mitzrayim. I mean, you meaning God. And everybody is going to look at you, meaning God, and say, oh, there goes God. You can't trust him. First, he destroys the Egyptians, and he says they deserve it, and the Jewish people are his people. Then he destroys the Jews. And Hashem appears to be sort of listening to this. Hashem says, all right, go down and sort it out, and I'm going to forgive them. That is a bit of it in a nutshell. Really, really strange, right, ladies? Very, very strange. Lots of little lessons we get from here, and then we'll look at the biggie. One thing we learn, Okay, and then the way this works, because there's so many things in here, just take the bits you want, a bit like, so you know, there's sort of all you can eat salad buffet things, right? Okay, so I'm going to give you lots of different things. You pick out the bits of the salad that are going to work for you wherever you're holding and your thing. But one thing we get is when Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, go down the mountain and see what they're doing. One thing we learn from here is you cannot make a judgment unless you're in the situation. He has to go down and see what's going on. Now, Hashem has just told Moshe that the Jewish people are doing something wrong. Doesn't matter. Nothing's going to happen until Moshe has gone down to see for himself. Of course, he could believe Hashem. Hashem is Hashem, but no, we don't judge until we are actually face to face. We don't use circumstantial evidence. She told me this and he told me that. Nothing doing. You've got to be able to see it yourself. That's one thing we get from here. On a different level, another thing we hear is, and we're going to go with this a bit more, Hashem says to Moshe, go away, leave me alone, and I'm going to destroy everybody. Now, Moshe hasn't done anything yet. He's still standing there in shock. But he understands from when Hashem says, leave me alone, that what he should be doing is davening. Meaning, we all get it wrong all the time. Well, I had to get it wrong all the time. You probably get it wrong some of the time or less of the time. But we all get it wrong enough of the time. Hashem is telling Moshe a really crucial thing. And the Gemara tells us this whole event on one level, Hashem let it happen. He could have stopped us. Let it happen so that in future, anybody who makes a mistake can daven to Hashem and ask Hashem to forgive them and can believe that it's possible. Because if the Jewish people could do such a ghastly mistake as pray to an idol right after they'd gone and had the revelation of Hashem, if they could do that, then anyone can be forgiven anything. All right, anyone can do anything. I mean, it's kind of like, the Gemara compares it to a bride who's committing adultery under the chuppah. Like, that's how bad it was. They had this huge connection with Hashem. They go about this Aidel, and Hashem says to Moshe, go away, leave me alone, and stop davening. He hasn't started davening yet. Hashem's hinting to him, start davening. Okay, start, do something, ask me, and I will forgive you. And this whole procedure is going to try and teach for the next lot of generations. Doesn't matter what you do, ask for help. Ask for help to get back to where you're supposed to be, and you will be forgiven. That is all assuming you mean it, right? Okay, you can't just ask for help and carry on doing the same thing, but ask for help and you will be forgiven. That's another little piece. We're going to go back to that a little bit deeper now, because here's what I want to know. Even with all of that, last thing we need to know, Moshe Rabbeinu goes down the mountain. The people who got it wrong have their consequences, and the women get a wonderful reward. They get the reward of Rosh Chodesh, the festival of the new moon. Now, we know that rewards have always got something to do with what we did right, and consequences have got something to do with it wrong. So what's Rosh Chodesh got to do with not bowing to a cow? We're going to see. Okay. So I just want to share with you, actually, very, very interesting story. It did the rounds about maybe 10 years ago, something like that. There was a story, you might have seen it in a report in the Israeli newspaper, Ma'ariv. I didn't read it myself. I've been told about it. And apparently, this is true. Apparently, somebody had put on some big it was all in sort of the drugs and parties era. And somebody had put on this huge, big party in Eilat, right? And unfortunately, it was on a Friday night. When it started on Friday afternoon, went all the way through Shabbos. And again, unfortunately, people who didn't know any better were driving down from Tel Aviv and all the various areas to go and have this mass party on the beach in Eilat. And it's going with a swing. And at some point, the organ, and I was going to say use your imagination, but please actually don't use your imagination. But everything you can possibly don't want to think of was going on at this party. And at some point, the organizers, who are world famous for making this, mad parties, bring out a calf, whatever it is, made of gold, not actually gold, probably made of tinsel or gold paper or something, and says, "Come on, everyone, dance around this." A whole bunch of people. This gets me every time. So these are people who don't know much about Shabbos, don't know much about Torah at all, were perfectly happy. They were whipping down that, they were going down to, they were going down to, to have this mad party. Said, "Oh, hang on a minute, that one we're not doing. I can't do that. Whatever else are doing, I am not going to dance around a golden cow," because they remembered back from when they were kids in kindergarten or wherever else it is, and they'd heard our history of a golden cow. That they won't do. That they would not do, right? It always moves me, that story. There's always a point that nobody will cross, right? Most people, especially Jewish people, we have a point when we cross. And they got in their cars. Okay, they were driving on Shabbos. They got in their cars, these people, and they drove back to Tel Aviv, losing all the millions of hundreds of whatever shekels they paid to go to this party. They drove back to Tel Aviv rather then dance and adore this golden cow. So why am I sharing that with you? I don't know, because I just think it's a really cool story. And it shows a lot about, you know, that how we all have our lines that we won't cross. But let's look at, but even then, if these people couldn't manage to do it then, you know, we're talking, you know, the 21st century, in, you know, Tel Aviv people couldn't bring themselves to do it. What on earth were the Jewish people thinking of doing with this cow? And why a cow? Okay. Like we said, the first concept is this concept of being able to forgive. So the Chassidus Sepharim say something like this. They say there's two ways to grow spiritually. There's two ways to experience yourself as a spiritual being, to experience Hashem, whatever that means. One way is with a spiritual overwhelm, right? An incredibly intense, amazing, astounding spiritual experience, okay? Like they had, similar kinds of idea, at Har Sinai when they heard the commandments from Hashem, right? Like they had the Red Sea. It's huge, it's amazing, it's miraculous, right? And you feel so close to Hashem, and it's going to be incredible, and it's wonderful, and it's marvelous, and it doesn't last. Other way to do it is when we've fallen, right? When we've messed up, because we have, and we say, actually, you know what? I really can't do this by myself. As much as I'd like to grow, I've messed it up. And we ask Hashem, please help me get back to you. And again, we had to go through that process of losing ourselves somehow or other, feeling like we, you know, a bit not shame, right? Shame's not the word for it, but being self-aware that I actually cannot grow all by myself. And the greatest teachers and books and all the rest of it in the world will only go so far. Okay, I might go to an astounding class, an astounding anything, but what I really need to do is ask Hashem to help me get that bit further. Not try, okay, because that kind of awareness that I need some help in order to grow is the thing that consolidates that growth. That's that little piece, and that's one idea. Okay, so in other words, Hashem could have continued overwhelming us with his miracles, and he did carry with miracles, right? Overwhelming this whole revelation like he did at Har Sinai, but instead he said, okay, I'm giving the Jewish people a space to kind of find themselves. Okay, this is a bit of Purim story as well. We'll get to that another time. To find themselves. So, and we're going to keep going back to that, ladies. It's a really important point. So I'm going to say it very slowly. Here we go, Sharon. I'm going to say it slowly. Okay, here we go. The way to spiritual growth is through knowing Hashem, looking for Hashem when we don't think we can find him, and knowing when he's sort of hidden, as it were, right, Tay? And also believing in ourselves when it looks like Hashem is hidden. Okay, one more time. Okay, so the route to spiritual growth is, yes, we go for these blinding, amazing inspirations, but also the way to consolidating that is believing in Hashem when it looks like he's hidden, and believing in ourselves when it looks like Hashem is hidden. Right. If you can go, you want to go to sleep now, that's it, because that's kind of the story. The rest is just adding in all the fun extras, but you can go to sleep or do your chicken soup or whatever you've got to do. Okay. Let's look at this baby ox idea. And again, we're going to do levels here. Okay, so it's kind of like an onion parsha. Okay, the more you look at it, the more levels there are in there. So we're going to look at one deep level and one even deeper. So here we go. The ox, ladies. Now, if you know anyone who loves Gemara, there's always oxen coming up, right? My ox goes your ox goes my ox. This one gets killed. Ox. What is it? An ox is, I'm going to quote my husband here, the tractor of the ancient world, right? They used to use an ox for plowing, for turning the mills, for schlepping the wet water out the well. If you had an ox, you had a livelihood, because you would use your ox. It's an agricultural society. You would use your ox to pull things, schlep things, do things, to help you manage in the big wide world of nature. Okay. Slightly slower in the desert. The desert is about as nature as you get. It's about as harsh nature as you're going to get. Until now, they've had food, they've had water, they've had man provided through the merit of Moshe. They've had water provided through the merit of Miriam, but Moshe's hit the rock with his stick. Everything has come from Hashem, but via Moshe. Their direction, right? They had a pillar of clouds by day, a pillar of fire by night. Again, they've had this direction, but it's, as far as they're aware, it's coming via Moshe. Hashem sending it, obviously, it's coming via Moshe. And here they are in the desert. They don't know if they're going to have food the next day. They don't know if they're going to have water. They don't know if they're going to have any sense of direction. They're in the middle of, deserts, like you can't really see where you're going, like it's all sand, basically, and the odd bit of cactus or whatever they have, right? It's a bit mad. And there they are. They're stuck in the middle of nature, and they did not know what to do. They didn't know where they're going to do. So what were they going to do? They'd stood at Har Sinai. They'd said, and they tried to have a revelation of Hashem. They tried to have a relation with Hashem. They couldn't stand it. They needed Moshe. And thinking, if we need Moshe to go up to Hashem and talk to Hashem for us, we're definitely going to need Moshe to bring all these miracles down and give us a direction. And here they are, and they think they're finished. They think Hashem, if Hashem gives us the food himself and we have all these open miracles, that's going to be too much for us. Alternatively, we're going to die here in the desert. We need a vehicle. We need some kind of channel between us and Hashem to tame the desert, to tame nature. We need a vehicle to give us our sustenance, to give us our direction, just like Moshe Rabbeinu did it to us. And that they do something incredible, okay? They panic. Most of errors, ladies, most things we do wrong are not because anyone is a bad person. It's because we panic. The Gemara calls it ruach shel shtus, right? A silly feeling, right? A stupid feeling, right? Give you a couple of examples. I don't have any statistics, but I would hazard a guess that most of the lights that get turned on in observant homes on Shabbos is something like this. Someone walks out of the bathroom and automatically switches the lights off. Right? You reach for the light, you switch it off because you know people always tell you to turn the lights off. It's Shabbos. Someone reaches that, turns it off, and what do? Instead of leaving it off, they go, oh, it's Shabbos, and turn it back on again. Now the first one was a mistake. The second one was panic. It was okay. You really weren't thinking, and that's not a thing. But the panic when you turn it back on again, right? That's panic. Give you another panic, a deeper level of panic, right? Okay, I know I always talk about people double parking outside kosher shops. I'm going to do it again, right? Right? When you double park, block someone's right by both of us. So there's this panic that if I don't grab this parking space, I'm never going to be able to park ever. I'll be going round and round and round the block till next week, right? Deeper level of panic. If I don't speak this juicy piece of Lashon Hara right now, I'm not going to be part of the conversation at all. I'm going to be totally ignored. It's going to be like I'm not here. Panic. It's not thinking. It's panic. I have to do this now. And what Klal Yisrael are doing are panicking because they honestly, truly do not think they are worthy and they are going to manage the desert by themselves. They're not going to manage relating to HaKadosh Baruch Hu by themselves. They're not going to manage nature by themselves. They're not going to manage food, anything at all that they need. They're not going to manage because they're not worthy. Because to survive in the desert, you need a miracle. And to have a miracle, you've got to be worthy. You're following the thought process. And I think, okay, so we're not in the desert with open miracles, but I think many of us go through this process. I'm not going to get this. I don't deserve it. Hashem doesn't really love me enough. I'm not great enough. I need something else or someone else, or I'm just not going to get it, quite frankly. On that level, that's our level of understanding. What was this thing with an ox? Why did it have to be an ox? We need the symbol of something that is going to dominate nature for us, that is going to make sure we have what to live on, make sure we have what to eat, make sure we know what we're going. You with me? Because they felt that maybe otherwise they weren't going to get. Okay. Now I'm doing the next little bit with a certain amount of trepidation, which is my very good word, because again, like I said, I sort of said to my husband, why did they have to build an ox? And he said, well, to do that, you have to learn Kabbalah. Now, we're not going to learn Kabbalah inside, okay? Because I don't know anyone who has, and the few people I've heard of who have probably wouldn't talk to me. But there we go. What we are going to do, however, is look a little bit at what this ox means on a deeper level. Right? So bear with me, ladies. Here we go. The Navi Yechezkel, the prophet Yechezkel, was one of the last prophets. And his prophecies, his visions, his nevuahs they're all difficult to understand because the Nevi'im are seeing the world, are getting a message from Hashem, which they're seeing on their level, which is nowhere near the level of Moshe, by the way. Okay, so Moshe Rabbeinu sees the world, and the Gemara compares it to looking through a clear window, right? Absolutely clear. The Nevi'im are speaking to Hashem on, it's called, it's a bit like a translucent window. Like some people have for their bathrooms, you have like glass and you can see through it, but it's, you have this sort of like funny stuff, so it's not 100% clear, right? So they're seeing through a translucent window, but at least they've got the window and it's translucent. So when we're hearing a nevuah, we're reading a nevuah, when we read the Haftarahs, it's not very clear what they're talking about because they were transmitting what they had seen on their level. And again, that already was symbolic, it was metaphorical, it was how they understood it, and they're transmitting it to us. And the nevuahs, the prophecies of Yechezkel are particularly hard to fathom, okay? So when I talk about this, please be aware, we have absolutely no idea what we're talking about. I have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, okay, to be fair, right? There are people who do know what they're talking about, but one of the nevuahs, one of the prophecies of the prophet Yechezkel, I know it feels like we're going off the topic, ladies, but it does connect, you'll see in a minute, okay, is that he sees the Merkava, the chariot of Hashem. Now again, Hashem is Hashem. He doesn't need a chariot. So this is all very deep and symbolic. Okay. And it's the discussion of this chariot is one of the foundations of the works of Kabbalah, because it's on different levels. It represents how does Hashem run the world? Okay, so something about it is telling us about how Hashem runs the world. We, or at least we on our level are not going to look into that, but we are going to look at the surface level and see which deep truths it tells us. So Yechezkel describes this chariot, okay, and it's got 4 sides, and on each side there's different figures, okay. So it has 4 figures. It has a human face. We'll get to that. Has a lion, has an eagle. And it has a 4th thing which changes. It's either an ox. See, I told you we're going to get back to it. It's either an ox or it's something called a kruv, which I guess would translate as an angel, but it's not a good translation. Okay, we're not going to all of them. The human face, apparently, because it says, looks like the face of Yaakov Avinu. What does that mean? Yaakov Avinu was the most perfect spiritual growth you could get to. Why? Well, if you remember, ladies, I know you've done this before when you're doing your Sephiros, okay? So Abraham came in with the idea of chesed, right, of kindness, but you can kind of misjudge kindness a bit. So it wasn't perfect. Yitzchak innovated the idea of serving Hashem through Gevurah, through boundaries and, in control, self-control, but you can go a little bit the wrong way with that. So here's my bit. Yaakov brought them together in something called emes, truth, or tiferes, beauty, and managed to synergize all the different ways of serving Hashem to the degree that he is seen as this sort of perfection of spirituality, to the degree that a person can be perfect. Okay, and that idea, concept of truth, it was this sort of truth, the completion of a human being was this face of Yaakov Avinu. Okay. And again, whatever that's supposed to mean, we don't know, but that was that face. Okay, so there's something about how Hashem runs the world, how we access Hashem, that's about this sort of perfection of bringing things together. Okay, and remember that Yaakov was the father of all the tribes of Israel. The lion and the eagle we're not going to go into, mainly because I don't understand it. But it's to do with the majesty of Hashem, Hashem's greatness, Hashem as king. And then you've got this ox. Okay, now what's interesting is the ox changes between an ox and a kruv. A kruv is a sort of, like I said, an angel. And the cheruvim were on top of the Aron, of the holy ark in the temple and in the desert. And when Hashem spoke, as it were, to Moshe Rabbeinu, the voice, whatever that means, came from there. So the kruv, this angel, is a symbol of our closeness with Hashem, of our connection with Hashem. Hashem's merciful and being very clear and apparent with us. Okay, remember we talked about sometimes when you see Hashem's huge revelation and sometimes you don't. That's the kruv. The kruv Yechezkel sees is supposed to be a sign of when Hashem is, as it were, pleased with us. So what about the ox? The ox, like we said, is the tractor, okay? It's the tool to manage nature. Now, nature kind of hides Hashem. It's very easy when you're a farmer to kind of think that Hashem's not there and the rain just happens to fall and the plants grow and you're dependent on the rain, you're dependent on this and that and the other, okay? And we have to do something. The ox is a symbol of human effort when Hashem seems to be hiding, okay? It's what happens when there's no miracles. It's what happens when it's just us and nature, whatever nature means, and we have to make an effort. Now, of course, nature comes from Hashem. Of course, everything comes from Hashem. But can you see how sometimes we get a little bit distracted by what seems to have power, even though it doesn't, and we lose Hashem? Now, really handy one if you like words. The ox is on the north side of the chariot. The word for north in Hebrew is safon, which also means hidden, right? So sage when you have your afikomen, that's what it means. Okay, so you've got this ox, right? Back to Yosef. Out of all the various figures that we talk about, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, who was the one who at the beginning of his life experienced Hashem most as hidden and had to put in the earth for himself? If you said Yosef, pat yourself on the head. Joseph, remember we talked about Joseph right at the beginning? He is going to be a leader, but when he shares his dreams, everyone says he's talking rubbish. Okay, he gets thrown in a pit, he gets chucked in a pit, he gets thrown into prison, he gets maligned, he gets slandered, he has to do himself. For Yosef, it looked like Hashem, there was no revelation. It looked awful, it looked terrible, like Hashem was, as it were, hidden, not there, and he had to kind of make some efforts. So when we talk about Yosef, when Yaakov afterwards gives him a blessing, he compares him to an ox. So we've got this idea of this ox being the part of us, or the part of our experience that is there when it looks like Hashem is, again, as it were, right? As it were, hiding. Okay, So why is there an ox? Because they're using this as a symbol of what, hang on, it looks like Hashem's hiding, looks like it's not a time of mercy. And therefore this figure of an ox is symbolizing that whole concept of, well, we're not really relating to Hashem right now. We're having to do it all ourselves. Now, of course they weren't. But what was really, really going wrong? We know that some people were actually worshipping this ox, but everybody else, it wasn't necessary, right? Hashem had just given us his huge revelation saying, I am your God, your personal God, who took you out of Egypt. You don't ever, 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 and this is it, ladies, you don't ever, ever, ever need to feel that I've given up on you, said Hashem. Don't sit there and go making an ox because you think you need a leader because you can't have a relationship with me, meaning me, Hashem. Doesn't work like that. Doesn't matter who you are. Okay, so you're not Moses. Okay, so you couldn't stand the inspiration the first time. What the Jewish people got wrong, the Jewish men got wrong on that level is when it looked like Hashem was a hiding, right? When it looked like the going was getting tough, they didn't believe Hashem was going to be there for them. They believed they weren't on a worthy, high enough level or worthy enough or great enough, and that Hashem would be there for them, and therefore they had to have this ox. It was a calf, by the way. You know why it was a calf? Because there wasn't enough gold to make an ox. You know how big an ox is? An ox is big, right? Massive. Have you ever been to the countryside, seen a bull? They're huge. There wasn't enough gold. Why wasn't there enough gold? Well, the women didn't give theirs, and some of the men didn't give theirs either. But so that's why it had to be a calf, not a cow. That's what Rashi tells us. But either way, they needed this power of this sort of representation of how do we, we need to manage for ourselves in nature. Hashem kind of, as it were, Hashem doesn't like us anymore. Hashem is dealing with us only with just judgments and not with kindness. There's no relationship. And that's what they were buying into. Women said, Hashem's always there for us. Doesn't matter what we've done. Doesn't matter what level we're on. Okay, so we couldn't manage a huge revelation. Hashem is not going to give up on us. So therefore, we are not going to give up on Hashem. Okay? That was the women's bit. The men, again, made the mistake. Hashem's not here for us. And that's why, by the way, on Har Sinai, one of the reasons why, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, go down, your people have sinned. They're treating themselves as your people, not my people. The ones who think they're my people, they're fine. The ones who think they're your people and they were depending on you, they're the ones who have got it wrong. Okay? And look, now let's have a look very quickly at what Moshe says to Hashem. And this is brilliant, this bit. I mean, if you want Jewish chutzpah, here is Jewish chutzpah, right? Okay, here it is. Hashem says, your people have sinned. You took them out of Mitzrayim. They're your people. You wanted to bring them out. Get rid of them. And it says, and remember we said how Hashem kind of hints to Moshe to pray? So you'd think he'd start saying, I'm really sorry, and they didn't mean it, and you have to be merciful. He doesn't say that, Moshe Rabbeinu. He does this brilliant marketing job. Okay, listen to this. He says, Moshe pleads before Hashem, and he says, why are you angry with your people? Meaning, my people? What do you mean, my people? They're your people. You have them, right? Okay. You took them out of Mitzrayim, with great strength and with a strong arm, right? And then he says, this is brilliant. If you get rid of them, he says, the Mitzrayim will say, he didn't take them out to rescue them. He take them out to kill them too. He took them out. This is what the Mitzrayim will say. Their God of theirs is no better or worse than these idols that we tap into.
But why are they writing to him?
He said, it's a marking job. He says, Hashem, whatever else you do, you cannot get rid of Klal Yisrael, wherever they do, because it's a massive chilul Hashem. You said they're your special people, right? You, Hashem, said we, the Jewish people, are your special people. But if you destroy the Jewish people and just leave me, Moshe, all you're doing is proving everybody else right and me wrong. I, Moshe, went around saying Hashem loves the Jewish people. That His special. You told me to do this. He's going to take them out. He's going to remember His promise to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Okay, so they've made this mistake. And you have to let them keep going because that shows that they're a special people. That shows they've got potential. If you get rid of them and start again with me, all it shows is that I was the one with potential and not them. But that's not what you said. You said that they've got the potential. And Hashem, as it were, listens from that. Okay? And we're learning an incredible, I'm very, very mindful of the time, but I just want to get to the end of this. It's beautiful. It's saying, if Hashem, says Moshe, you forgive these people. Remember, Hashem wanted him to say this. Okay? Then what you're proving is that they don't need an ox and they don't need a Moshe because you love these people as these people and you understand that they make mistakes. And Hashem says, okay, Now, again, Hashem wanted Moshe Rabbeinu to say this so that he could say, okay, so that we would learn what? We would learn that it doesn't matter how many mistakes I mean, obviously, you want to try and get it right, but there's no such thing as saying Hashem has given up on me. Not ever. Not ever. There's nothing we can do that will make Hashem say they've lost their potential. They don't have any more. There's always a space to say, all right, let's go and grow from here. Okay, and that again is what we said, that has to do to Shiva. Okay, so we talked about, so let's just summarize for a bit before we go and talk about this reward, okay? So we talked about this calf being a symbol or a sign of their desperation, this kind of being somehow removed from Hashem, feeling Hashem is hidden, that he wasn't there for them anymore, and also their sign that maybe they weren't worthy. We talked about why, we mentioned that it's a calf because there wasn't enough gold to go around. And again, we said, why not enough gold to go around? Because the women were not going to give their jewelry, okay? Now, we know also, remember we said that Aharon wanted to delay. Aharon knew the women weren't going to give their jewelry. The whole thing was a delaying tactic, okay? And we know afterwards when they came to building a temple, a mishkan, a place of connection to Hashem, the women gave very, very generously. And they got as their reward, what? Rosh Chodesh. Let's have a look a little bit at Rosh Chodesh. So there's a lot of concepts of Rosh Chodesh, right? And why Rosh Chodesh? Why the new moon? But let me give you one kind of idea that I think is going to fit in. But and we'll talk to us a little bit. Okay. So we said that this idea of this Aidel, of this calf, whatever it is, the feeling that you have to kind of, needing some kind of sense of security, needing to feel a sense of that sort of power over nature, right? This power of being able to do and being able to have something happening, not just to wait for Hashem to help you. You've got to kind of do it for yourself, okay? In the Torah, okay, you learn this in Koheles. One of the things in the world that symbolizes the power of nature's raw power, do, go, is the sun, okay? If you think about all the various things we have around us, the sun is the source, well, it's not the source of life because Hashem gives us life, but if you don't have a sun, you have a problem, right? It makes things grow, it makes the plants grow, it gives us, fire, sun, whatever else it is, all those kind of things, okay? And it's very easy to mistake the sun, meaning the power of nature, as the only power in the world, right? We know that because all these ancient peoples used to worship the sun, and it was an obvious thing to do. Now, these days, we don't worship the sun. I mean, people say you're a sun worshipper when you go to Spain on holiday and you sit on the beach, but that's not really what it means, okay? But I'll tell you what we do worship, some of us, me probably, okay? We worship money. We worship economic power. We worship voting power. We worship, I don't know, whatever else it happens to be. That's also the same trap. The trap of seeing that that power, raw power of forces in the world other than Hashem is right. And the more power you've got, the more right you are. You've got an ox, it's more powerful. You've got the sun, it's more powerful. Might is right, all that power kind of thing. Now that is a Yetzer Hara. It's a very common Yetzer Hara. It's not in Jewish thought a female Yetzer Hara. Warning, when we're talking about females and males, we're not talking about dafka men and women, okay? Everyone's got a mixture of, I'm going to call it woman energy, female energy, and male energy. Everybody's got a mixture of them. So we're talking very sort of typically, if it's not about every woman is like this and every man is like that. We're talking about a kind of an energy, a way of being in the world, okay? But the female Yetzer Hara is something, is not to look at might is right, not to look at surface level physical power. Why? Well, because every month, women, without wanting to get too graphic about it, go through a cycle of having an incredible power to make life into the world and then not having that power and then having it again and then not having it again and back, that is the cycle we go through. So we intrinsically, somatically, physically aware that power comes and goes. Physical power comes and goes. You don't have to, but the power to give and comes and goes, but the person is still there, okay? If you think about the sun and the moon is always there. Now, you can't see it when the sun is shining, but it's there. It's consistent and it's steady, but it doesn't seem powerful. It doesn't seem like it's making anything happen. When do you see the power of the moon? When the sun's gone. When it's dark, right? When you're really, 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 really struggling, that moon is there. Now, it's not always the same, right? Sometimes it's complete and sometimes it's small. But it's always there. The power of the moon is to shine in the dark. Not just shine in the dark, but shine because it's dark. Because the sun's not there, that's when you see the moon, right? When all the power and all the nature and all the forces in the world and all the stuff we believe in without even really thinking we're believing in it is gone, the power of just believing and getting on with it is still there. And that is the power of women. And that is the power, that's what we see in the moon, okay? So the energy of the ox, again, might be this kind of greatness, physical power, physical strength, okay? It's a tool for providing. And if you can't provide with an ox, you get a substitute. And the moon is just about, okay, this is what I can do. I'm going to accept that and I'm going to do what I can with it, okay? Even when it's dark, even when it looks like I'm really not managing with this and I'm not okay. So the moon is sometimes, if you look at the sky, right? I don't know if you noticed, gorgeous, gorgeous full moon last night. I don't know where you are. For once, it wasn't raining. It was really windy. There's amazing full moon. We've had quite a lot of nice full moons recently. Okay, so think about that full moon. Sometimes it's big, perfect, looks, you know, complete whole round thing. Okay, and sometimes it's depleted and it's weak. Sometimes it's big, sometimes it's small. Okay, so what are we hearing? And it's still the moon, and it's still there, and it's still okay because, right, this is my line. I took my daughter to be vaccinated not long ago, and the nurse, they have this patter the nurses have to say when you get vaccinated. And one of the things she said, which I'm quite happy with, she said, it's okay to be not okay. And we're like, oh, that's a really nice thing to say. I'm putting that, you know, fridge statement, right? It's okay to be not okay. Now, it sounds very nice from some random nurse in some place in Manchester, but that's what the moon's saying. It's, you can be not okay and be okay. It's okay to be not okay. Sometimes you'll be great and round and shiny, as it were. Sometimes you're going to be depleted and go into yourself. But it's okay to be not okay. You don't need to panic. Okay, so you got it wrong. Okay, so maybe nobody is taking any notice of me. Okay, maybe so I don't have the kind of power and force that I would like to do. Maybe I can't do the things I want to do. Maybe I've totally, utterly lost that massive inspiration that I had last week, year, whenever it was from that shit. But it's okay to be not okay. And I'm not going to give up. And I don't need to look for a substitute. And I don't have to say I'm not worthy. I'm just going to keep on going, knowing that there's a cycle, right? Like the moon goes round and round. Okay, let's talk about colors. Have I got time to talk about colors? I know you said only for, have I got time to talk about colors, Joanne? Can we talk about colors for 2 minutes? Okay, right. Okay, colors time, ladies. What color is the sun? Please don't say yellow, okay? The sun, fire. If you had to choose a precious metal that you would symbolize if you're drawing it, what would you go for? No prizes if you said gold, okay? Everything in Torah, everything that comes up has got some kind of, has got deeper meanings and understandings, and everything in the world is there to teach us a lesson. So in Torah thought, gold is the color of din, of Hashem's absolute judgment. You're worthy, you're not worthy, you get, you don't get, okay? And therefore it's the same color as, you know, fire is kind of that goldy color, right? Because either it's destroying or it's building, it's one or the other, okay? Right? It's also the color of nature. You know, you need the sun shines, stuff grows. Okay, so that gold is the color of din. Water, if you had to give water, I mean, it doesn't have a color, it's transparent, but water, if you would think about it, it would be more on the silvery side, I guess, okay? What color is the moon, if you're going to do that? Also silver. Silver's a color that symbolizes Rachamim, Hashem's mercy. So you've got this golden cow, all right? The people who are building the golden cow thought this is a time of judgment. Hashem has got it in for us. We've got one chance, we blew it, okay? We're here with nature, it's all very cause and effect. The sign that Hashem's going to wait for us, okay? The Hashem says it's going to be okay in the end is the silver. It's the moon, okay? Now, again, there's a lot more deeper that than we're going to go into now because it's a little bit deeper. But that concept of the moon is that Hashem is waiting for us. Interestingly, by the way, the Midrash tells us that in the world, you know, when Mashiach comes and the world is in its perfect state, the moon will be as bright as the sun. Okay, which is a very interesting idea. That because that belief will be there. But let's just sum this up because I know we have to. Are we being mafresh challah today? Yeah. Okay. So I have to sum this. Okay. Quick summary because we've done through a lot, but I want to get the takeaway from the salad bar, as it were. Okay. So we had the Jewish people. All of us had this intense revelation of Hashem. Okay. When that goes, when we feel like we're on our own, the people panic. They say they need a leader. They feel they need leadership. They need something to manage for them. They need power. They need might. They need a figurehead. They can't possibly do it on their own. Because why? Because they don't believe in Hashem. Okay, this is, again, moving into a Purim. It's interesting that this parasha always comes somewhere near Purim time because it's very similar concept to the concepts in Purim. Okay, they don't believe in themselves. The women say, hang on a minute. Just hang on it. Just wait. Okay. Yeah, it seems hard. Yes, we're feeling powerless. We're stuck in the desert and we're feeling powerless, but we're not giving up on ourselves. We're not going to give up in the fact that Hashem believes in us. Okay. And when the Jewish people as a whole do teshuvah, right, which is the men as well, when Moshe daffens and all the people do teshuvah, then they learn the same thing, right? However much you are doubting yourself, however much you wonder, you've lost whatever it is, inspiration, leadership, whatever else it is, Hashem's not giving up on us. and we're not giving up on us, and we can climb back. So you don't have to be big and great and perfect and shining like the sun. Okay, you can be coming and going and in and out and backwards and forwards like the moon. Okay, you just need to keep that going. Okay, we need to get that building back up again, so that we're knowing that whatever Hashem does, we leave us. And like I said, right, the Midrash tells us, and I'm going to quote this from, and I wish I knew what it was. It's in my head and I forgot to look it up. I'm really sorry. If anybody knows, please tell me. Very, 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 very holy lady, all right, who went through a lot of troubles in her life, had something on her fridge that I'm going to leave you with, okay? And she said something like this, which I really want to put on my fridge. She said something like this: it will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. And you can understand that a lot of different ways, but it is my favorite, okay? One of the things we're getting from here is Golden Calf tells us it will be okay in the end, right? The moon will be bright as the sun. Hashem will get an ultimate revelation. We'll get back to that connection with Hashem. But in the meantime, we're doing okay. We hang in there. We make our mistakes. We go back, okay? Hashem believes in us. We believe that he believes in us. We keep going. It'll be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, just means it's not the end yet. Right. Have a wonderful Shabbos, ladies.